The last thing I want to hit, DEI. There was an article, I believe it was in Politico, and the argument that the article was making was that Democrats lost the culture war because they invested so much in the DEI programs. All right. This guy is pointing out some of the stats on this, and it is fascinating. I have always pointed out that the biggest benefactor to DEI programs were white women. I'm sorry, to affirmative action programs were white women. All right. The DEI program, something similar is true, that the biggest benefactor to DEI programs were effectively white liberals. They were the ones who were getting hired for these jobs.
Coleman posted this on Twitter. Take notice, when DEI jobs die out due to unpopularity, white leftists will make it sound like black people are mostly affected. Truth is, this was always a grift for white mediocre college graduates. Their worthless degrees was ideal for an industry that doesn't require thinking. This comes from Zippa.com. He has this great chart on here. It says Chief Diversity Officer Statistics by Race and Gender. White, 76.1%. Hispanic or Latino, 7.8%. Asian, 7.7%. Unknown, 3.9%. Black or African American, 3.8%. American Indian, Alaska Native, 0.7%. Male income, $99,575. Female income, $91,254.
I'm going to stop right there for a bit, because that stat by itself is funny. Ideally, you would think these are liberal groups who often complain about women not having equal pay with men. And in what seems to be, or the very least supposed to be, DEI programs that include women, they still get hit by not being in equal pay. There's an irony there that is just fantastic. On the other part to that, 70-something% of these programs are effectively run by whites. So even in programs that are supposed to deal with this notion of diversity, equity, inclusion, blacks are not. We're only at 3%. That's astonishing. Like, I maybe my tenor or take on this is off. My thinking would be for programs like this that you would have a larger share of blacks, larger share of Hispanics, because you're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's also this other thing of what it even means. Republicans have taken this to mean black and unqualified, which is just racist on its face. It's a dog whistle, like affirmative action was used as a dog whistle. By the same token, though, you think to yourself, okay, let's give it the greatest spirit that you can give it. What does it even mean? Meaning, if you can put the best spin on it, what would be the outcome that you would want from these programs? And was that outcome fulfilled? And has it been to our detriment that these programs haven't necessarily had the bang for the buck that you would expect it to have? Meaning, is it true that Democrats lost the culture war for pushing DEI so hard in lieu of economic populism?
Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. Here's my opinion on DEI. It goes back to this. It goes back to whether it was Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, and all of them at some point came to the conclusion that, the white liberal didn't exactly have the best policies for black folks, right? Whoever worked long enough in that, Martin Luther King was after a while like, the white liberals, right? Here's the thing about it. The federal office of DEI opened in 2021, right? So it was around like 3.5 years or so, right? Are we to believe that the 3.5 years of DEI changed somehow the landscape for black folks? That, now that that's gone, we're all going to there was a infrastructure for black people to utilize if they felt that there was discrimination in the workplace, EEOC, all that kind of stuff, right? EEOC laws and rules and things of that nature, right? That they were there. DEI didn't change any of that. To me, DEI is a fraud. And here's what I mean. When I what I've seen of DEI is basically this. It's like Hollywood. When you see an advertisement and they got a black woman, a white woman, a Latino person, the gay person, that every single advertisement or every movie, the women who are superheroes have to be a diverse group of fill in the blank. That I remember Marvel came up, people don't even know it, nobody went to see it, this movie called Echo, and the woman who was a superhero, but She was a female who was Native American, who was deaf, and who had like one leg cut off. And that was the superhero. And everybody was like, wow, literally look it up, Echo, the superhero, right? That's DEI. That is the symbolism, giving the look, the symbolic look. If a Black woman is now a member of a corporate board for some neoliberal company that's robbing the hell out of all of us, now symbolically, because a Black woman is in charge, right? Because they put a Black general in charge of AFRICOM that's going to oppress and bomb the hell out of and drone and kill a bunch of Africans, I'm supposed to feel great. We've got a DEI now. We've got equity and inclusion. DEI during slave time would have been, we have a female trans person who's in charge of whipping the slaves every day to make sure they pick enough cotton. And so the slaves should be happy because they have a representative, you know what I mean? They have representation, right? Now, it's like the modern white liberal idea of feminism, right? As opposed to, what did it used to be? Women's liberation. What did it used to be like during Martin Luther King? It was Black liberation. They used a whole different language. It was, we must be liberated from oppression. We must get a fair shot. And what did Martin Luther King work on? What was his 1963 march? What did they ask for? They asked for a $2 minimum wage. It was a march for jobs. It wasn't just a march for Black folks. It was a march for jobs and economic. You see what I mean? So what happened was, DEI was another area where the white liberal class could snatch this idea of economic liberation and say women should be treated fairly, or Black people, all people should be treated fairly, and the working class should be treated fairly. And that's all one bubble we have to work in, right?
Yeah.
If we have symbolism, the DEI, a perfect example is when they say we should have more women and minorities in the boardroom. You've seen these things in the boardroom and representation for Fortune 500 companies. Well, Black folks and women who are trying to get in the boardroom of a Fortune 500 company are already wealthy. They're already rich. So you're going to get symbolism. It is nothing but symbolism. It is crap. It does not help the Black person who lives in a poor neighborhood, who doesn't have decent schools, who's afraid of crime, who Black folks may be in there. Some people may want drug rehab. They may want free college. That would have helped them. Healthcare, that would have helped them. If you're fighting for healthcare for people in that, poor white folks in Appalachia, don't they need the same things?
Yep.
If I go on a reservation for the Indians where 30% of the people don't have running water, right? That's something that I fight for. That's not DEI. That's the material needs of poor people. Yes. DEI doesn't address poor people and the impoverished and the least among us. Isn't that what Martin Luther King talked about? The least among us. This is symbolism. And most of the time, the symbolism is only addressed in Hollywood or in the corporate boardrooms or in somewhere where it's equity and inclusion and diversity. It is about looking like you're working for justice and putting up. It's even worse to me in a way, because if I have a picture in the boardroom or whatever, or in a movie of a Black person, a gay person, a white person, or this and that, and I have the symbolism of that, but yet the poor people in the community can't even afford to buy a ticket to that movie. You know what I mean? You're not doing anything. It's about looking like you're doing something to help minority groups and not even saying, well, how about this? If Jay-Z and his wife and their son or daughter is a Black child or whatever, does that person have the same material needs as the Black child who lives in the poverty in the ghetto? No. So, oh yes, they're young black men who we've got to work out for. Not all young Black men. Some young Black men, their parents are doing pretty damn good, and some of them are poor. Meanwhile, the young Black child who is impoverished has the same exact material needs as the young white child who lives in Appalachia where there used to be coal mines. It is recognizing identity politics is the enemy of economic politics.
Why do you think
DEI is the enemy of economic politics? Go ahead.
Why do you think they chose that as the tip of the spear as opposed to economic populism? Because you're right. When I was at the Sanders thing, They were whites, blacks, gays, straight, everything in between. And in having everything in between, all of you, or all of us, were united under this idea of an economic populist message, because it was understood that the message affected everybody. Like, it wasn't, I'm carving up these groups. So this person is black, this person is white, this person is gay, this person is straight, this person is whatever. And I'm making different messages for each that in no way touches the material conditions of those people, but I'm directing my message at Hispanics. And so, hey, we're going to have less of you deported. Congratulations. For blacks, we're going to do something about criminal justice. For so-and-so, we're going to do something on the, as opposed to parsing these people to say, all of you have to pay your car note. All of you have to pay your house note. All of you have to pay for energy and for basic expenses. And so let's deal with the material realities. That seemed to be the most natural thing in the world, considering it affects everybody. Why do you think they decided on DEI as a tip of the spear as opposed to that economic populism?
Well, because they're the representative of an economic class who is benefiting from the ideology of neoliberalism, right? So they get two bonuses out of it. They can scream for, this diversity kind of thing so that Black or people or women or whatever, Native Americans can sit in their impoverished, little, cardboard put together homes on the reservations and with no running water, which is totally and completely unfair. That's a forgotten group, but they can sit there and they can see a Native American superhero named X who's getting the millions of dollars to be on this movie, and they can say we won, and they don't have to say how much is it going to cost us to run water and clean things to, and electricity and everything to all of these reservations where the people desperately need these kinds of things. It's a lot cheaper. Meanwhile, the people who sponsor the Democrats and the Republicans both, can continue to, with their government contracts, they can continue to make a fortune. They don't have to share their wealth, etc. And the other part is this. And additionally, this kind of racial stuff and this kind of diversity kind of stuff in the way that they present it actually divides the working class. So a women's liberation movement that said women should be respected and treated fairly, even if a woman decides that she wants to get married and not work if they can afford it, and she wants to work, she wants to raise her kids or whatever, that's a decision that people make. And it's and to say we respect that. And if that woman chooses to do that, we must respect that. But no, the only thing that can happen is a woman has to be just as the same as a guy, and then they have to be in the boardrooms and they have to do all this thing. The women's feminism movement, actually, you hate men. Remember, Believe Women? Believe Women was like, hate all men. Women are all telling the truth and men are all liars. And any claim made against, I don't care if a woman comes out of a mental institution. If a woman gets off for, like, she just murdered 7 people, but she says the guard tried to feel my butt, we have to believe her, not the guard. She's in prison for mass murder, waiting for life. But we got to believe her, not the guard, because she's a woman. Those things are ridiculous and absurd. And what happens ultimately? You now pit women, working class, poor, struggling women against working class, poor, struggling men, working class, poor, struggling Black folks against working class, poor, struggling white folks. And now you can continue to divide and conquer so that the working class and poor, struggling people don't all come together and recognize what they have in common and that they have a common enemy and a common, as Malcolm X said, a common enemy, a common oppressor, right? And that is the ruling elite. They don't want you to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, they don't want it. Garland, my man, always appreciate these conversations. The audience loves you. They always love you. You always are welcome on this platform. Garland Nixon, political analyst, also host of his own YouTube channel. Definitely check out Garland's show. Garland, do you come on every day? I wasn't certain. I see you periodically when you pop up in my thing. I think I was even on your video the other day. when do you present? When do you appear? When do your channel?
Well, there's no there's no, there's no rhyme or reason. I have a couple people that I usually have on regularly, at different times, but that can vary. So yeah, I wish I had a steady schedule, but I really don't.
Okay, fair enough.
But
definitely
pretty much most days, I'm going to have a video on at some point.
Okay, definitely check out his channel. It's fantastic. Garland and I usually show up on Fridays also together. Usually
we're doing this Friday. How's this Friday look for you?
It looks fine. We should be fine on this Friday, even if it's a little bit later in the day.
Okay, let me know.
We will present. Now, man.
One more thing.
Please.
I just posted on my channel this a little over a year ago. I did this video and I talked about how the U.S. would eventually leave Ukraine. And I said they're going to exercise the Samsonite option. And I have a picture of a Samsonite luggage. And I'm like, they're going to just one day wake up and walk the hell out of here like they do in every single time. Right. And so people have been saying, yeah, you hit the nail on the head on that one. So I just posted that on my video, the Samsonite option.
Oh, I love it. It's like, I told you so. It's a I told you so video. My man, Garland, thank you for this. I appreciate it. Be safe, man.
All right. Thank you.